Do you like great results? Would you like to have better results? But where are you right now in creating better results? Maybe you're over here where you're measuring the results of your team and you're looking at their performance and you're thinking, this is not good enough. Perhaps you're looking at the different actions they're reporting and you're thinking, this plan is not going to work. Could it be that quite often you're discovering a lot of mistakes that they're making and you're thinking that you have to get involved in the problems that they're having and trying to fix it? And could it be that you're concerned about the features of the products, or you're very concerned about the profit that your department is creating and delivering? You see, if you're over here, you're focusing on the results that your team is producing, which is fine because focusing on results got you into that position where you are, meaning you're a manager of the team. But do you need better results? What would you need to do to get better results? Would you just do more of the same? How do you really change your team's results? Imagine you were over here and your team would understand the purpose and had the passion to move things forward. And they actually had a process how they could really be successful every time they started something. And what would it mean to you if the people were actually developing and becoming better at what they do? And at the end of the month or at the end of the week, you could actually report the progress that your team is making. How much would that mean to you? Couldn't you achieve much more results like that? You see, the difference between being over there and being over here is the change in your perspective. It is the change of the perspective of the leader. And this is important because changing the perspective of the leader is important, because imagine if you are over there and you're still one of the best members in your team. You have the best experience. You have the highest knowledge and the best competence to fix things and really get things done. How does your team feel when you bring in your competence and your best game every time? You see, you're setting a lid onto that team because nobody can get past you. Nobody can be as good as you. So there's nowhere else for your team to develop, and they're just waiting for you to take charge. But how can you then help your team to become better, you might be asking? Because as a leader, you have to change your perspective, because the leader is not responsible in creating the results. You see, changing the perspective of the leader is very urgent these days, because maybe you are challenged in creating goals and achieving targets that you've never achieved before. And could it be that you have to deliver better results than the last quarter? But do you really need those better results? Of course we do. We all need better results. But the problem about thinking about results is that you cannot not think about results. It's like the pink elephant. You cannot stop thinking about the pink elephant because you have committed yourself to the goals. You are paid a bonus on achieving the results. But how can you then change your team's results? The only way of changing your team's results is changing your perspective. And what change in perspective do you need then? This is quite interesting because today you might be looking at the performance, you might be looking at the plan, you're looking at the problems, and you're looking at the profit. And that is your focus. And you're looking at the performance and you're wondering, oh, if my team only had a little extra passion, wouldn't that make a difference? Of course it would, but where would that passion come from? It would come from having more purpose, understanding why they need to do things. You might be looking at the project plan and you're trying to get involved because you don't really believe that this is going to work. But if your team instead had a process how they could be successful every time, wouldn't you be more relaxed? Couldn't you be more confident that it's going to work? You might be looking at the problems today, but you're looking to really find the perfection in the solution. And that's where you're trying to help. But you would rather have the people create that perfection, wouldn't you? So the perspective that you need to have is to find a way so that you can develop the people so that they can create that perfection you're looking for. And you might be looking at the profit, which means that you're trying to perfect the profit, but in fact, wouldn't it make a difference if you had the progress that you could report on and everybody understood where they are and how they're proceeding and how they're getting better? You see, I have been training and coaching managers to become leaders, looking into their profitability for the last 10 years. And I had the opportunity to accompany a group of really good managers over the course of 2 years. And every month I went there and we did training and coaching. And in fact, over this period of 2 years, we had a journey from good results to having great leaders. And this I was able to document when I researched around what was happening here, because I researched that change, that journey that this group of managers went through, and wrote this in my book called Speaking the Language of Leadership that you can get from Amazon. And in this book on Amazon, you can find the whole journey, all the changes, all the challenges that the managers went through to change their perspective. And what they got as a result is they got a 50% increase of the productivity of their factory, without any reorganization, without any market pull, and without any investment. Is that something that you would want to have for your team? And the way they got from where they were to where they are today was in a change in perspective, by focusing on the purpose, the process, the people, and the progress. And when I researched what these managers had achieved on their journey to become great leaders in writing this book, I discovered these are the 4 sides of leadership. Because if you emphasize and become better at these 4 things in leaders, as a leader, that is how you can deliver and increase productivity with your team. So let me in detail present to you the model of its 4 sides of leadership that I have summarized in my book. It starts, of course, with the purpose. And in that purpose, you're having a dialogue with your team where you want to define what you want to do and why it is so important to do these things. And this is like giving your team a north, so that every time, when it turns dark or when it becomes confusing, they know where to turn and which direction they're heading altogether. And when there is a north and they know what to achieve and why it is important to achieve it, of course, they wake up in the morning with purpose and they want to get things done. And that is where things start in the East. And when things start in the East, it's not like everybody knows exactly what to do. In fact, you might need a process how to get started so that you don't argue around how to get started. You don't have a discussion around what is important. You don't disagree around how the resources are being used. And when you have this agreement how you as a team are going to proceed, that is of course when the people come in. That is when things actually can go south, because it could be that the people are hesitant, they don't really get started. They are still wondering what this really means for them and whether it's going to turn out well. And in the end, at the end of the week or at the end of the month, when you turn west, that is when you want to sort of relax, and that's when you want to look back onto the progress. And these are the elements of its 4 sides of leadership. And what I discovered around these 4 sides of leadership, if you as a leader have different situations and different dialogues with your team, these actually give you a highlight around what type of discussion you have to have with a team. You'll easily discover, is there a lack of purpose, or is there a lack of process, or is it something that is hesitating for the people, or do you have to communicate the progress so that they feel proud? You see, this gives you an orientation, and it's like orientation that you could have as a compass when you're out in the woods, out sailing, out on a journey, knowing exactly where you're going to head, where north is, knowing where east is so that you can get started, knowing what you can do when things go south, and knowing where you can relax in the sunset and look into the west. In detail, what I then discovered I had been training, and what I've been training managers since, is that if you want to communicate with your team around the future goals, you need principles, you need methods, you need models and tools so that you can bring about the purpose for the team. That is why I train my managers on the True North Navigator. Because with this True North Navigator, you have these elements so that you can be crystal clear what has to change and why it is important. And when you have this agreement with your team, then of course you're going to turn east and you're going to think about how you're going to get started. And that is where I train my managers around the global strategy enabler. Because many times the strategy just ends up being a list of important activities. But if you have a strategy that really prioritizes your current resources so that you can continuously achieve your goal, that is when you can secure a strategy. That is when all your team will understand how they will now create this together. But just because the people know what is important and why it has to change and how they're going to do it together, some people will still be hesitating. Some people will still be wondering, what does this mean for me, and how will I proceed, and how will it go, and how can I contribute? And it becomes very personal. So that is why, as a leader, when things go south and things stop, that is where I train my managers around the motivational map scanner so that they can understand all the models and the methods and the tools that will allow them to help to move the people so that they can grow in the challenges that they have in front of them and really get started and act. Because when they have started their actions, that's when the progress comes in. And that is where then train and coach my managers around the progress and impact tracker so that they can give this feeling back to their people around what they have achieved. This is the model of its 4 sides of leadership. And the better you can become in any of these sides, the better you can be in leading your team to success. And you can get this by buying my book on Amazon, or listening to it on Audible, or even downloading it as a PDF. Because for the readers of my book, I'm sharing the principles, the methods, the models, and the tools behind its 4 sides of leadership, free of charge, in small 10-15 minutes videos explaining exactly what I mean, so that you can have the same success as this group of managers when they became great leaders. And this access for you is free of charge for the readers of my book, Speaking the Language of Leadership. Because when you buy my book, you can write me an email at info@its4sides.com, and I will give you access to this group where I will be posting these videos. And when I have a webinar, you will also be invited to that webinar so that you can even have access to me and listen to some experience and even talk to other people in that group. Now, you might be asking yourself why I'm doing this, giving away this material free of charge that normally you might be paying 3,000 euros for. It is quite simple. I believe that good leadership is so extremely important. Because I would like to have good leaders around me. I would like my wife to have good leaders around her. I would like to have my children to have good leaders, and I would like to have my grandchildren to have good leaders around them. We have leaders around the world. We've got leaders in politics, leaders in industry, leaders in charity, leaders in the community and in social areas. And if we can have more good leaders around us, of course, we can have more fun. Because we can understand then what our purpose is. We can have a process so that we can be successful. We can have leaders helping us people to develop, and we can see the progress so that we can go home in the evenings and at the end of the week feeling satisfied and believing that we have made a contribution. That is why I'm giving you, my readers of Speaking the Language of Leadership, these online videos free of charge so that you can start your journey in becoming a better leader. What are you waiting for? I'm here to help you. I'm Coach Colin, and I'm here to help you master your leadership.